Welcome to European Legal History. My name is David Foster and I will be the module convener for this course. In this introduction I'm going to talk about the content of the course and outline some of the themes and issues we will cover throughout the year. So, the content of the course. This course is about the history of legal development in Europe, from the fall of the Roman Empire right up to modern times. Now, this is obviously too broad a topic to cover in its entirety in 1 year, so we focused mainly on broader themes of legal development, in particular considering the emergence and evolution of various schools of legal thought, such as the humanists, the scholastics, and the natural law theorists, and the influence that these schools have had upon the individual legal systems of Europe. Most modern legal systems are derived from one or other of the great legal traditions that developed in Europe from around the 11th and 12th centuries. On the one hand, we have the English common law, which emerged from local customary rules into a highly sophisticated system of practical legal learning, and which now dominates many of the countries which once formed part of the British Empire: Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia. The other major legal tradition was that of the jus commune, or European common law, derived largely from classical Roman law and medieval canon, or church law, and which is most influential in continental European or civil law countries such as Italy, Spain, France, as well as those regions which were colonized by Europe, such as South Africa, Chile, and Mexico. Now, although some references will be made to the influence of the jus commune upon the English common law, this course is largely concerned with the origins, evolution, and influence of the jus commune itself. And while some references may be made to legal systems outside of Europe, our focus will primarily be with the developments in Italy, France, Germany, and Spain. So the outline of the course. In this course, we seek to analyse the changing notion of European common law, or jus commune, in different times and different places. Throughout the course, we will compare and contrast the development of legal systems within individual countries, in an effort to explain how each legal system's experience reflected the broader trends of the European legal tradition. In the process, we will consider the main sources of law in Europe and the various theoretical approaches in the civil law tradition, such as legal humanism and natural law jurisprudence, which gave European legal history a strong sense of unity throughout the period. To that end, we begin with the codification of Roman law by the Emperor Justinian in the 5th century AD. But with the collapse of the Roman Empire, legal science entered a dark period until the so-called rediscovery of Roman law in the 11th century. From that point onward, Roman law mixed with the canon law of the Church combined to create a legal culture in Europe which stretched from one end of the continent to the other. As the study of Roman law and canon law became increasingly popular in the medieval universities of Europe, generations of scholars contributed to the creation of a rich intellectual tradition, which in turn came to influence the development of many of the legal systems of the continent. Even as individual states developed their own national legal systems, the European legal tradition continued to pervade all aspects of legal culture in Europe. Roman legal ideas continued to influence both procedural and substantive rules, as well as contributing to major cultural, political, and constitutional shifts. Legal humanism, scholasticism, natural law, and the move towards the codification of national legal systems all owe a debt to this Western legal tradition. It is this tradition of scholarship with which we are principally concerned. So I just want to speak now about some of the reading on the course. Now, there are 3 textbooks on the subject, as well as articles and monographs listed in the course materials. The most compact textbook is Peter Stein's Roman Law in European Legal History, which gives an account of many of the major developments discussed in the course. It is an eminently readable book which gives a solid introduction to the material, and I would recommend students read this book first to give a general overview of the course. The second textbook is Robinson, Gordon and Fergus's European Legal History. Now, this book gives a more detailed treatment of much of the material covered in Stein. The third book is slightly different. It is Manlio Bellomo's Common Legal Past of Europe. Rather than focusing on changes in individual legal systems, this book stresses the intellectual coherence of the European common law, with much discussion on how legal education and the practices of jurists created a strong sense of continuity and uniformity across European legal systems, from the late Middle Ages to the 19th century. In addition to these three books, I should also mention Raoul van Carnigem's Historical Introduction to Private Law, which covers much of the material in Stein, but in a little bit more detail and with greater emphasis on the developments in France. Meanwhile, Franz Viacher's monumental History of Private Law in Europe is a slightly more advanced text, but with an excellent treatment of the developments in Germany and the broader intellectual trends in Europe throughout the period. Finally, there's James Brundage's Medieval Canon Law, which gives a straightforward guide to the developments of the Church and its laws in Europe. As one of the few institutions in medieval Europe which had a truly supranational authority, the Church was central to the diffusion of ideas across the continent. Moreover, with its own set of courts in each country, the law of the Church, the canon law, was a key point of legal convergence across Europe. So in closing, this is an interesting course, which is different from some of the other courses you might take in your degree. It asks you to think about legal development and legal change on a truly grand scale. By placing our understanding of the law in its deeper historical context, we can enrich our understanding of the present. This is very much a course which seeks to provide that context. Thank you.